Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Brought to you by Junk Be Gone and the Garza Law Firm.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning and welcome into the Sports Source. Happy to have you joining us today. We have a packed show for you. We're going to be talking a lot about signing day since the early signing period starts up later this week. We're also going to look forward in Tennessee's future in terms of football. So a lot of football today we're catching up on. Then the next few weeks, obviously, we're going to do football and basketball and recruiting and spring games and on and on and on. So let's just get right into tonight's show. First segment of our program is brought to you by Junk Be Gone. After the holidays is a great time to call Junk Be Gone. Load up on all those boxes, all the old stuff that you've had replaced by new stuff, all the wasted wrapping paper, even your Christmas tree. Have them bring the dumpster, you put it in there, they haul it away. It's a great company, and it is a great time to call right after the holidays. Let them take the mess out of it for you. Junk Be Gone and junkbegone.biz to learn more. All right, let's welcome in today's panel. We have right here VFL Will Overstreet. And then from 99.1 The Sports Animal, we have Josh Ward, Jimmy Imes. Gentlemen, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Sure.
Right down there, we bookended the table with another VFL. We got Marlon Walls down there. Marlon, thank you.
Glad to be here.
Should we start referring to you as Tank, since so many people call you Tank? Or could Marlon still get on TV?
I'll let you call that.
All right, very good, very good. We'll go with Marlon for now. You never know. The Vols got a bid to the Music City Bowl last Sunday. Some weren't happy with that. I thought there was a little bit of a pushback that how come we got the shaft and we're having to go to Nashville and all these other teams are going to Florida? Well, the three teams that got Florida, Kentucky, A&M, and Arkansas, all have better records. It doesn't seem that surprising to me. I mean, I can kind of do the math and go, oh, that's why they got Florida. But your thoughts? Tennessee's going to play Purdue, a pass-happy program that throws it all the time. They don't run well at all. If you're Danny White, if you're Josh Heupel, do you look at Nashville and Purdue and say, I'm happy about this, or I would have liked something else better? Josh, thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's obvious that you'd prefer to go to Florida for all the reasons we laid out on last week's show, and fans, most often, they're going to want to make that trip. But I think this season, you get 7-5, that's as good or better than most people expect at the beginning of the year. You get to play a quality team in Purdue that's 8-4, won some big games in the conference, but it's also a very beatable team. So the pluses are you can go to Nashville where your fans can easily come see you. You have a very good chance to win the game. What does that mean long term? I would say nothing. But for the end of the season, you can get to 8 wins and finish on a positive note. I think that's good for Tennessee.
Well,
yeah, I think getting to the 8 wins. I mean, you wanted to go in with the team that you had the best shot to win and beat. And so I think looking at this game, that's a team that you can put up some points. You can still show your offense, show everything you have, but you can win that game, and that's a reasonable game to win. I think also recruiting purpose being in the mid-state, I think it helps you connect closer to the other side of the state. But overall, I mean, I get it that Penn State, Wisconsin, there were some other teams that were more attractive out there, and being in Florida is better than Nashville in January and December. But overall, I do have to say that for this team, it's just about being in the bowl game. That was a progress this year. So if you can get out with your 8th win, that's huge. I look at that being more important than where you were in this bowl game.
It's kind of a gift horse in the mouth kind of year for me.
Yeah.
Next year or the year after, we'll be more concerned about it.
Yeah.
Jimmy, you made a comment before we started the show. The one drawback to a Tennessee-Purdue matchup and the fact that both teams, one's hurry up and the other one throws it every down, and that is?
It'll be a 4.5-hour game. But other than that, enjoy it. Purdue, they do have a quarterback who's got elite numbers. I'm not going to say he's an elite quarterback, Aiden O'Connell. They have an elite receiver in David Bell. He's one of the best in the country. They have another complimentary receiver that's really good. One of the best running backs was out most of the year, Horvath. He's a pretty good player. But the thing, Purdue cannot, in my opinion, sit there, line up and just run the football at you and milk the clock. That means Tennessee's going to get a whole lot more possessions, and I think Tennessee is better at a speed-up game than Purdue is with a passing attack. Josh, you mentioned with Purdue, they beat Iowa when they were top 5. They beat Michigan State when it was in the top 5. Now, I think Iowa was overrated. But that tells you that Purdue, when it's on, is really good. Now, they've had some pretty average performances too. But I do think they're a beatable team. They've got one great defensive player. But other than that, I think Tennessee should be able to move the football.
Considering the amount of time that they spend throwing the football, I don't blame Alontae Taylor for taking care of his foot and rehabbing it before the NFL draft and combine and everything else. Yeah. But this might be a game where you sit there and go, ooh, I'd like to have all of my DBs for this one. Marlon, your thoughts about Nashville and Purdue?
That's exactly what I was thinking, man.
Sorry.
We, in the worst way, we need all our defensive backs on the field. If you're going to go against a team that's going to throw the ball a lot, we're not great on the back end. And then when you take away Alontae Taylor, who's a proven guy who's played a lot of football in the SEC, I would love to see him in this matchup. Gives me a little bit more security against this team. But the matchup in Nashville, I like it just because, hey, we didn't get Florida. But just recruiting-wise, that's the mid-state. We got to do a better job of locking the state up. Why not play in Nashville? And a lot of those recruits get a chance to see Tennessee up close.
The one good thing against a Big Ten team, usually, if you have any kind of speed on the outside, they're not used to seeing it.
Yeah.
And so you've got a chance to generate a pass rush, and this would be that kind of game where you'd be able to generate a pass rush against that kind of offensive line, because they're used to big and slow and not anybody with too much athleticism.
Well, it's kind of a product of where they are. Yep. I mean, it's hard to go up there unless you're Ohio State. There aren't many teams that are going to say, hey, we're going to play 2 months of the year in slop. Let's try and build for the speedy type game. That's not how they play it. The matchup itself, I thought this was interesting. I went back because I remember this is only the second time Tennessee will have played Purdue, and I remember the first one, 1979, when I was a kid. Jimmy Streeter was the quarterback for the Volunteers. What I didn't remember about that game, going back and looking at it, the announcers put forth the nugget that was the first time, 1979, that Tennessee had ever played a Big Ten team. So you don't think about the Big Ten for years. If you didn't go to the Rose Bowl, they didn't go to bowl games at all. And they certainly didn't play SEC teams and vice versa. So that was the first Big Ten matchup Tennessee had ever seen. In terms of what this thing can mean in the mid-state, do you think that a mid-level bowl game, I mean, it's important to be over there, to be in people's faces. There's no question, crowd support and all that.
Right.
But does a mid-level bowl game swing any kids to really start, getting hot and heavy over the Volunteers? You coached them.
I think, I think if you're seriously looking at Tennessee as an option, I would say getting a chance to see them up close. Yes, the coach is going to be in your face. You'll be able to check them out and have a little bit more conversation. But as a guy that grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, getting a chance to see Tennessee up close in person, I think that's pretty important.
Okay. All right. Very good. Josh?
Yeah, I would add, I guess, on the flip side, because I mentioned earlier, very winnable game. You can get to 8 wins. I don't think that means too much long-term, really anything. On the flip side, if you lose this game, I wouldn't overreact, because it's a very winnable game. It's a losable game, too. So if you lose the game and you finish 7-6, I also don't think that means anything really negative long-term either.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what the reaction around town is.
That's why I say it, because I know what the reaction around town will be.
Right. Yeah. It won't be
long
positive.
term.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. Because
long term becomes shorter, right?
Everyone shares Will's point of view, and that is the Big Ten slow. And you said slow. A lot of people interpret that as they suck. And Tennessee has won 4 straight against the Big Ten, including some of the Butch Jones Bowl games.
That will be brought up. Hey, we beat Iowa. We beat Northwestern. Why can't we win this one?
Yeah. Exactly. Beat Nebraska. What's so special about Purdue? How come our guy can't win the bowl game?
Yeah.
Even Pruitt and Butch Jones won the bowl game. So I say, no, I don't listen to you when you say it doesn't matter. It won't matter. All right. When we come back, let's talk about the other SEC bowl games. We're going to talk about, we'll get our recruiting expert out here. We'll ask him about the trip to Nashville. Does it do Tennessee any good to be over there again and again and again? And we'll discuss that next. And also a question about Knoxville. Should Knoxville have a bowl? Everybody else does. Why not put one here? That's next. We've got plenty of recruiting to come. Come on back on the Sports Source.